Welcome everybody to the Tinkerbell community meeting. My name is Marky Jackson. I am one of the contributors to the Tinkerbell project. I'm going to go ahead and start off with first saying that we do have a code of conduct, which essentially amounts to be awesome to one another. I'm going to move into the next section, which is introductions. I do see we have a few new faces. I don't like to call anyone out to introduce themselves. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, please feel free to unmute and say hi to everybody.
I'm Micah. I'm at AWS, work on the EKS team. I've been playing around with Tinkerbell the last few weeks, made a few pull requests and filed a few issues, but excited to play around with it. Yeah, just good to see kind of what's going on with Tinkerbell.
That is awesome, Micah. Thank you very much. I have seen your pull requests come through. I think we've conversed in a few of them, so it's awesome to see your participation. It's very welcomed, and we're very thankful to have you here. Is there anyone else?
Hi, I'm Ankur, and I've been writing articles for Software Engineering Daily podcast, and I was tasked to write one for Ignis Metal. So I've just felt that Tinkerbell is a really great project to provision like bare metal, and that's why I'm here, and I'll put my Twitter in the chats.
Awesome. Thank you for joining Ankur. We're very, very thankful to have you here. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Sold. Okay, well, I'm going to jump into the agenda. We don't have very many topics today. We do not have a show and tell. I know we will be. I'm not going to call anyone out. Oh, but he raised his hand. Go.
I could do a show and tell if that's okay, real quick.
That would be awesome. I would love to see that. I will turn it over to you, Jacob, and take it away.
Thanks. Share my screen. Okay, can you all see that?
We can.
So at the suggestion of Marky, actually, I found this thing called Code Tours, and I created a code tour for a few code tours. There's 3 of them I actually created. The journey of a request for DHCP, TFTP, and HTTP in Boots. And I will be PRing these into the repo, but I thought they were pretty cool. You can walk through a code base, annotating lines, giving context, talking about like what's going on and doing things. And so people can asynchronously look at this. And I thought it was pretty cool. So I created it, and yeah, hopefully it'll be an upstream here shortly. So there's my show and tell.
That is super awesome. Thank you, Jacob. I also did put a link in the chat to the VS Code extension for Code Tours. It is a super awesome tool. I've worked in a couple other open source projects, and we've used it, and it's been very well received for walking through technical deep aspects of code bases and giving it a very good visual delivery. So thank you very much for that, Jacob. I will now move. Does anybody have any questions about Code Tours?
Jacob, where does that live currently?
Yeah, I've got a branch. I guess I'll post it in there. I've got a branch, my fork of Boots. I'm hoping, today, tomorrow, put a PR into upstream Boots.
Excellent, thanks.
Awesome. I will move on to the next topic, which is Jacob, and this is discussion 504 for the governance.
Yeah. So I guess I can post a link in the Zoom chat as well. This link is in the meeting notes, but I wanted to bring up how we do our governance model, when maybe more particularly how we define things like contributors, maintainers, owners, whatever kind of verbiage we wanted to do here. I think it would be really helpful to understand that and how you can become them. I don't know. So I brought the discussion up here. I found a website called opensource.guide, which I thought was helpful, at least as a starting point to talk about some of these things. Obviously, you could see Mark and I have been talking about it. And I just wanted to bring it up in the community to see what other people thought, if there was different naming categories or groups, or how governance people wanted to see Tinkerbell mold the governance model.
I am trying to find out how to unmute myself, which I have now found out. Everybody is looking at the wrong screen, so I apologize. So essentially, I added a couple links to some frameworks that we can reference. Obviously, everybody's very aware of how the Kubernetes community works. There's also the Jenkins project, which has a really good framework for governance. If the idea behind this is to, as Tinkerbell grows, we want to be able to put more value into how we're growing the community, making it more of an organic thing. And by having a governance model helps us to separate sort of things, so we're not just piling it all onto one main sort of channel and sort of decision-making process. So if anybody has some cycles and they'd like to look at this, your feedback is welcomed. Maybe other projects that are doing something, but essentially what this is we want to make this a very transparent thing. We want to make sure the community is involved and get everyone's feedback, because we want everyone at the table to help with this. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Awesome.
I'm not sure.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure where things left off with this, but I'll link in the chat a pull request that was going to take care of some of the ownership in the project through an automated Terraform process. And this isn't quite the same as governance, but maybe the two kind of go hand in hand. The issue that this PR was trying to fix is refactoring team repo permission. It was all part of the .github repo. It's something to be figured out so that we can more easily extend rights across this org and the various projects. I don't recall who was talking about it last week, or maybe it was the week before that, but there are other ways to do this, and adopting a way to control access to repositories is kind of something else to consider at the same time as governance.
I think this is actually really good thing, and for anybody that's not familiar with what a contributor, I think what you're referring to a lot of in this issue is a contributor ladder. And if you're familiar with how, let's just use, I use Kubernetes as an example because they're the second largest open source project in the world. So that's a good marker to use. Contributor ladders are how people get rights to do things within the org of Tinkerbell. So for example, what do we do to add people to the org? What rights do they have, such as reviewing PRs or approving PRs or even merging PRs, things like that. So that's what this is. I think this is really good. Does anyone have any comments about this? Okay, well, we will link this in the notes. This will also be part of the recording. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out in the Tinkerbell channel or the community Slack.
Yeah, can I add real quick? If you're interested in governance, please hit me up on the Tinkerbell Slack channel. I'd love to pair with somebody or hit up the GitHub discussion. I really love to get some really clearly defined and understandable ladder, as Marky said, so that we can help new people and existing people understand how it works and who you can talk to and who does what, etc.
Thank you for that, Jacob. And that is oh wait, no, Mick, we do have more topics. That's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Micah. Questions about security issues management?
Yeah, this is Micah.
Micah, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So I just was thinking about this. So I'm on the Kubernetes product security committee. We basically handle like reports from external researchers or just developers of security issues found in Kubernetes. Tinkerbell is obviously really small and in a much smaller state at this point. But I just poking around a little bit, didn't see like any either in like a GitHub issue template or in like a README anywhere, anything about if I found a security issue, how I would report that responsibly. This is like really common for like open source projects just not to have. So that's it, but it's not, it doesn't have to be a big process thing. I think I opened a issue similar, basically the exact same thing on Cert Manager a couple months ago. I was helping out with that project. I just dropped a link in the chat. I can basically probably open an identical if we want on like Tink and just replace Cert Manager with Tinkerbell. But basically just some really light process just to say, here's who are trusted people who are part of the project that if you find a security issue, you can let them know about it. And here's how to like prominently let them know about it. So yeah, it's just something that I noticed poking around a little bit, but I'll open an issue for it now that we've discussed it.
Can you also tag me in that issue?
Yep.
To add something to that, I will let you know that because we are a CNCF sandbox project, the CNCF, as you're part of the Kubernetes community, you'll know they go through graduation processes. And part of that graduation process is the security audit. That's a mandatory audit. The CNCF has put forth a new framework where they're doing self-security assessments. The Tinkerbell project, I think we're one of the first, I think 4 projects have gone through the self-security assessment. We're going to be the 5th one. So as I've been going through and reading through a lot of the documentation on the self-security assessment, one of the things it talks about is having what you're describing. So what I would love to do with you is when you open that issue, and the reason that I asked to be tagged is to pair with you, because as we go through this self-security assessment audit, I would love to have your input as well as also have you possibly assisting me with it. That would be really awesome.
Yep. Yeah, happy to help there.
Sweet, sweet. Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about security templates or the self-security audit? I need to make an acronym for that because it's too long to say. Awesome. We will move on to the next topic, which is Jacob, Triage Party.
Yeah, so we were gonna do Triage Party last week, didn't happen. But so next week, Tuesday, this same time, Mark and I are still working out the kinks on the email going out, the calendar invite, but we will be having a Triage Party. If you're not familiar with it, it's a really cool tool that allows you, yes, thank you so much, to walk through issues and see what's going on and updates. I just learned it last week. And it's super easy to learn. I think we will have the author there to walk us through, if I can bribe him, Thomas Stromberg. He wrote this Triage Party. He'll probably be there to help us walk through, but if you are interested in helping contribute in any way, we're looking, if you see in the top right of that screen, there's a 40.3 day average wait. That's kind of embarrassing, I would say, for our community. We want to lower that value a little bit, and that's just by responding to people and getting involved. So if you're interested, next week this time, there will be a calendar invite going out, hopefully here shortly, to join the Triage Party.
Yeah, it will be going out today. And also, the Triage Party is a super awesome tool. It is also used by the Kubernetes release SIG. So what we're going to be doing next week is exactly what the release team does for they do a weekly triage. So they have a meeting weekly where they will walk the board, and this is outside of their regular SIG meeting. So it's really great to be able to use this type of a tool to see where bottlenecks are, because a lot of times bottlenecks can be very detrimental to new contributors. Takes the wind out of the sail when you open a PR for the first time and you're super excited about it, only to have it sit and wait for 40 days. Any questions about Triage Party? Awesome. Well, this is a part where we go to the open mic. If anybody has anything that they did not put in the topics, we're more than happy to chat. If not, we give you back the rest of your morning.
I apologize. If I could ask Micah, is EKS doing anything specific with Tinkerbell? Is there like an integration or something happening, or are you just
Yeah, it-
happen to work there and you're also interested in this?
Yeah, no, it's something we're interested in. There's no integration at this point. More just kind of doing some research. Like there's a lot of there's a number of other projects out there like Metal 3 that kind of do sort of similar behavior integration with things like Cluster API. So that at this point, I'm mostly just kind of doing some research and digging in and trying to see, how does Tinkerbell work? How does it stack up? And like, how easy is it to use? It's been really fun to play around with. Like I obviously I've hit some issues. You can see the GitHub issues I've had. Like, I don't know if I just can't get kexec to work on an Intel NUC. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but maybe it's the hardware. I'm not sure yet. But that's also not server grade, right? So
Sure.
I'm still like prototyping.
I have also
Cool.
had that exact same problem. So
Okay.
don't feel like you're alone.
Yeah, I've got more different hardware on the way, so I'll be able to hopefully play around with something else.
Awesome.
Any firmware upgrades for those nukes?
Already
checks?
done.
Yeah, I responded to that. Like kexec can be finicky, so
Hmm.
you might be out of luck.
Yeah, I was able with kexec specifically was able to it's still like even if I'm not using the action, if I'm just running kexec with the same arguments that the action is running, it's still hanging. So it doesn't seem to, it's not Tinkerbell specific.
Yeah, no, that like nothing's happening is just failed to boot, and you're not posting, so you don't see anything.
Right.
So yeah,
It's on the reboot call. Like this, I did it as trace, and like it's the actual reboot call that is hanging on. So it's
Awesome. Thank you for that. Ankur, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I have just something to say. Like, I have watched all these videos by Jeremy and David McKay, but I still don't know where to start. Like, I've watched the 24 days of cloud native, all these things, but I don't know where to start. Like,
So there's a couple places that you can start. They're in the documentation. There is a sandbox section where you can use like Vagrant, and you can set that up. If you want to use it in Kubernetes, there is a link in, I'll have to find it, but we do have a repo that will show you how to use Tinkerbell with Kind or Minikube and Tilt.
okay, thank you.
I'll find those and I'll drop those in the Tinkerbell community Slack just as a sort of FYI.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Anyone else?
Yeah, there was mention in our Slack of the Crossplane provider for Tinkerbell that I had started a while ago. I thought it landed in the doc as something to mention, but apparently it's not in here. So I'll just mention it in here now. That so this was a very rough Crossplane provider that was modeled after the Terraform provider. Something about the way that the API is presented now is there are fields that represent like an insert JSON blob here, insert YAML blob here for some of the core resources of the Tinkerbell API. And ideally, those could be schemaed out and represented in both Terraform and Crossplane in a more like type sensitive way. In any case, that provider has been moved out from the Tinkerbell GitHub over to the Crossplane contribs GitHub org, which will allow for better testing in the future. Like they can, the community there can get their testing framework put into place, the same publishing pipeline established for all of the projects under that org. And Other than that, just, looking for anybody interested in testing that out, advancing that. If you're not familiar with Crossplane, crossplane.io, it's a way to manage infrastructure in Kubernetes. That's it. I'll go with forward description. Maybe that's class.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Crossplane is an awesome tool. Shout out to Daniel if you are ever listening to this, but we love Crossplane. Does anyone else have anything in? All righty. Well, if no one else has anything, I will go ahead and stop the recording.